102.5 FM, KXSFLP San Francisco, and KXSF.FM.
You're tuned into Spark, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
This is Kelly Marlowe, host of Spark. Today I'm talking with Susan Cervantes, an award-winning muralist who has been a driving force of the San Francisco mural movement. She's also the founder and executive director of Precita Ice Muralists, one of the few mural centers in the country. We will be talking about her experience as an award-winning activist muralist. Thank you for joining me today, Susan.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
How many years have you been an artist?
Oh, for about 60 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when and where did you start painting murals?
Well, we started painting murals, I think around 1970, 71, something like that. Yeah. And that was in Balmy Alley with children. And then I also worked with the Muralistas, the women muralists. That inspired me to continue doing murals, and then I started doing murals with my own community around Precita Park and beyond after that. So,
was it daunting to become a muralist at the time?
No, I was a painter for 12 years before I started doing murals, but I was always painting big. I was getting the biggest canvas that I could make, and so when I saw the murals on the walls, that was really inspiring, and so I got involved with the Mujeres Muralistas, who really showed me how they work together as a collaborative, and I thought it was really a wonderful process, and decided to do a mural workshop at the Precita Valley Community Center. And that was really successful. And then the school across the street sees that one, and then they want me to do more murals at the school. And so one of my first monumental pieces was at the Leonard R. Flynn School. It used to be called LeConte School when I actually did the mural, but they changed the name. And that was a really big project. And for me, that was in 1976 when I started that one.
There weren't that many female muralists back then, though.
No, well, we were probably the Mujeres Muralistas was the only group of women who were doing any murals at all or had ever done any murals together and public level. So it was very special that they existed and were getting paid to do the work. They were really amazing women, and so it was, and still today the Bay Area probably has more women muralists, active than any other part of the country.
What was the inspiration, though, for the Las Mujeres Muralistas? I understand that there's an activist element to it.
Well, there's the mainly what it is that when they started, it was more important to them to do murals around family and family values, around their culture particularly. It was like, really going back to their origins and, as Latina women, to represent their culture and to represent their families. And so it was more about that. And that was very different from what other muralists were being created at the time. So, and I think they continued that idea through all their work. They were a group of about 4 or 5 Latina women artists, and they all had different skill levels and different interests. But for them to represent their, where they came from, like the first mural that they did was the Las Americas, was called Latina America, It was on Mission and 26th Street on the site of what was then the Mission Hiring Hall. And in the center of it was a circle with a family represented inside of it. And then all around them was all the different cultures of Latin America. You know, Bolivia was represented, Colombia, you know, Venezuela. And this is where some of their you know, origins are from, and Mexico, and then they also had a section that was just for the families in the Mission District. So it was a really powerful, huge mural, and that's what inspired me, seeing how they also work together. They come up with a theme, and then everyone contributes something to that theme, and they make a composite of everyone's ideas in respect of each other's ideas and skills and knowledge, and put together a composition that is unified. And I thought that that was a wonderful way of working. And when I worked with them, they respected that, you know, my contribution, my effort, my skill as a painter. And I felt that that was very important.
So I do see that you bring that into your workshops. When I watch the groups work, the level of collaboration is so harmonious that it's almost unusual.
Well, this is, I just think it's really important to bring art into the lives of people, and this was a community muralism is one of the best ways to do it. You don't have to have a lot of skill or have had, you know, any art training to be a part of the process. And I mean, that's where I took it to, you know, because I felt that there's very little art in our lives, and I felt that art was very important to be in our lives, and it should be visible. And art can come in many different ways. I think life is art, and art is life. So, but when we were doing a collaborative mural, it was including everyone and their ideas, no matter what level of experience they had.
I'm impressed at how you're still able to climb the scaffolding after 60 years.
Yeah, well, no, I don't have any trouble doing that. I might not do it as fast as I used to, but I still get there.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I can do it. How many murals have you painted?
I've directed probably more than 250 myself. Collaborative murals or individual type murals. The Mural Center, the Presidi's Muralists have probably done more than 600 or 700 collectively, just the organization, including the ones that I did. But that's over 44, over 44 years since the organization was founded.
Which one is the biggest?
The biggest one that Presidi's did, the biggest one that I've ever worked on maybe is probably the Women's Building mural, or the one that's out on 3rd Street called Soul Journey. Those are pretty big. The ones on Cesar Chavez School on the front and the back are really large. The ones on Cleveland School are quite large. So I've done some really large monumental works over the years, but those are the ones that come to the top of my mind, right now.
And you've done them abroad as well.
Yeah. I've done murals in China and in Russia. Three murals in Russia, and 2 mural projects in China. Were
they different in the experience?
I'm invited. These are invited. So what I do is teach the same community process as I do here, and that's what they want. That's what they invite me to do, and so that they experience the same, process where everybody's included in the designing and planning of a mural, and they, but it's also, it's about who they are. It reflects who they are, what their experiences are. So it's appropriate for where the mural is being created. and it works. They're very, very excited about it, and want to continue to practice, especially in China. In Russia, it was pretty hard, for the people there to continue to practice, and because of the situation there. But in China, I think it was embraced a lot more, and they had the means to continue to practice.
You had mentioned before the show that in the piece in Russia, there were details that were sort of hidden, woven in, so that it wouldn't be obvious to the eye, but there were details of symbolism that meant something to the community who was working on it. Can you talk about that?
Well, yeah. Well, it was in the second time that I went. I was invited to do a mural on the school in Moscow, and they invited me to teach the community mural process with their community of students and parents and community people, artists that lived around the neighborhood or that they knew and invited to work with me on the project. I was invited because I knew two artists that I'd worked with previously or had gotten to know previously in Moscow, and they were associated with the school, and it's a Jewish school. So in 1997, when I went, the Jewish schools, there was only, I think, 5 that had just reopened as schools, after the Soviet Union had fallen. So it was very new to have, these Jewish schools. I'm not Jewish, but my friends were Jewish, but they had not had the opportunity to practice their traditions. But they were exhibiting their work in the school, and the principal of the school wanted to have murals done, but he didn't want to invite just an individual artist. So they talked about inviting me to bring a new way of seeing, doing monumental community art. So they invited me to go to Moscow to the school. I took Luis, my husband, with me, and my 2 sons to experience it, and also to be a part of the process. So we worked with the students and the principal, the administration, the staff, and some of the Russian artists that were invited that my friends knew. And so because they, of anti-Semitism, Semitism in Russia, it was very sensitive to have symbols of Jewish culture visible. So when we did the design, we were very, conscious of that, or sensitive to that. So it was like these 2 great, big, huge. We had 2 huge walls. They were about 30 feet wide and 65 or 70 feet high each. And so the community designed it so that there would be like a girl dancer and a boy dancer. So the girl dancer, and there would be some framework around it that, and symbols of the Jewish culture around it. But then they wanted to have the menorah in the mural somewhere. But they knew that was probably one of their biggest symbols, that would be recognized by everyone else and would maybe draw too much attention to them. So when they designed the dancing girl, I looked at the dress and I saw how beautiful it was, but I thought that the menorah could be embedded in the dress, and around her chest. Just looked like an ornament, and so they thought that would work. So we did that. We painted it, and the principal looked up at it and he says, "I can see it," and he was very happy that he could see that the menorah was in there, but it was somewhat, hidden, you would have to look to see that symbol come through.
So they couldn't really draw attention.
They couldn't draw attention, no.
So that was the best way they could represent their symbolism without drawing too much attention to it.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Time for a short break. We'll return more with Susan Cervantes.
This portion of your program has been brought to you by generous help from the Barrel Room at 415 Sansom Street right here in San Francisco. You already know that the Barrel Room is a venue to get a finely crafted cocktail, meanwhile stay for dinner with an evolving menu that changes to feature a new wine region several times a year. You know they also have a fully stocked wine store that you can get a bottle to take home or get enough to fully stock your next event. What you may not know is they have a secret door that leads to a more than 100-year-old speakeasy, and inside you can have a meeting, a private gathering, just a drink, or even a quiet dinner in. To find out where that door is and what it leads to, you'll have to call the Barrel Room at 415-956-6900 or go to www.barrelroomsf.com.
Keep real radio alive, people. Live, local, real radio. That's why you're here listening to KXSF, right? On 102.5 FM San Francisco. We give you more of what you want. Music and programming curated by actual human beings who live locally in your neighborhoods. Plus live music and interviews with local artists and bands. But to stay on the air, KXSF really needs your help. Donate now to KXSF by going online to www.kxsf.fm and clicking on donate. It's 100% tax deductible. Keep real radio alive in San Francisco and donate now, everyone. Thank you so much.
This is KXSF 102.5 FM, streaming worldwide at www.kxsf.fm. And you're tuned in to Spark with Kelly Marlowe, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
Susan Cervantes and I were talking about her life as a muralist before the break. Susan, why is the artwork on the women's building such an important piece? I should mention that the women's building is in the Mission District of San Francisco.
Well, it just shows the power of of female culture, women's culture, women's contributions all around the world. I think it's very important that, and it's also, was a sort of a culmination of the feminist movement back in the 70s, which is still continuing. But it was a powerful statement. The group of women that purchased the women's building back in the 70s, and they paid for it by, I think when we started the mural, they finally paid for the whole building, and that's why they wanted to celebrate it with this mural on the building. So it was, I think, and we started it in 1993 and finished it in 1994. It was 25 years ago. But all the images were, done collaboratively with 7 other women. I mean, one of them being myself. 7 women artists, Juana Alicia, Miranda Bergman, Edith Boone, Mira Desai, Irene Perez, and Yvonne Littleton, and myself. And some of us, we were aware of each other and had maybe worked with each other on previous murals together. But the Women's Building chose the 7 of us to work collaboratively on this project.
Can you talk about the historical and sacred female figures that are painted on the building and the significance of them?
Well, I think that I think the one that at the top of the building there's 2 sides of the building. One that faces 18th Street that has at the very top is the goddess of light and creativity, who is seated. Is naked and is pregnant with a a girl fetus, about a 6-month-old fetus inside of her belly, and she's raising her arms up and holding the light, which is where every woman's potential is, and our ancestors live. And so then the butterfly wings that are behind her sort of represent the rebirth, which is also not only each of our own rebirth, but also the rebirth of the women's building itself at that time. And so that's one. And on the top of the Lapid Street side, which faces east, is Rigoberta Manchu. And she was a very important figure who had a Quiche Maya woman from Guatemala who had won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 on the basis that of trying to find sovereignty for her people in her country. And so everyone in the group decided that she should be honored and represented at the very top of the building. So then there's others. We sort of based it on a lot of goddesses as well on that side, which included Yemaya from the African diaspora, representing the moon goddess, and also the Coyoshauqui, which is on the right side, on the Lapid Street side. Coyoshauqui is another moon goddess from Mexico. We also have Kuan Yin, which is from China, which is a goddess of compassion. We have an African goddess that's in another portion. We have a Dakini that is from India, with all these many other figures around them. And on the front we have young women and girls who are represented, and also a grandmother from Africa with her granddaughter, that she's has in her lap. And that's because Mission High School is just down the street, and we felt that, the young girls from Mission High School will see themselves in the mural when they go by. So those are just some of the images.
It's a beautiful and unique piece, and it's high up, so you see it very clearly when you're in the Mission.
Yes.
I was wondering if you see murals as a canvas of activism.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, I'm sure that they all are. I think any time that you can claim a space, whether and express yourself in it, no matter what the images might be or what the issues might be, is really claiming the space for the people, and that's and for culture. So just that act alone is an activist or a social change action. It could be about so many different issues. The murals have all different kinds of messages, anywhere from just pure beauty to, showing the struggles of the HIV virus or AIDS, to showing the gentrification issues, or police brutality. A lot of these issues come up in the murals, and as well as celebrating the spirit of the culture and of the community.
Do you have any favorite murals or certain messages that you have created that have meant something to you?
Well, they all mean something to me, and I see myself in all the murals that I do, but basically it's coming from the community that inspires them. Like I said, the women's building, or like Cesar Chavez School, where we have the whole front facade is basically around sign language, which is taught in the school. It's one of the only hearing impaired programs that are in the city, for the hearing impaired. And so we have the sign language out in the front, showing the alphabet. So, I mean, if you're in front of it, you can learn sign language by just standing there and looking at the mural. Or on the back side, Cesar Chavez, si se puede, just showing the power of an individual and how it's influenced and, for the struggle, for the farm workers' struggle and the rights of the farm workers, and and also as an educator, and that these, teaching the students about how to be responsible for themselves.
That's so interesting. You recently completed a large mural for the new Chase Center in the city. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
Well, that was really a lot of fun, actually. I mean, it was really super hard work because we did a mosaic mural for the Chase Center. It was one of only 3 public art pieces that were created for the Chase Center. It's a mural. It's about 9 feet by 42 feet, and it's public. It's outside on the what do you call it? On the east side of the building, along the waterfront. You can see it from there. But it's we were invited to participate, and we agreed to do this work, and worked with the curators, which was Sports and the Arts, who were the ones that invited us, and we were on a list already with the Warriors team to be invited. So we started to find out what it is that they wanted to see in the mural, and so we did 2 or 3 different versions of a design of a mural concept and they finally agreed to the final one, which is what we ended up with, and it's called The Bay. And what we did is we wanted it to bridge the 2 sides of the bay, because the Warriors were really coming from the East Bay and coming to San Francisco. And they wanted us to focus on youth, so we were focusing on youth. So we have 2, like a boy and a girl in the center, like doing, a jump for the ball in the center, and they're done in painted glazed tile. We actually did the painting. We formed the clay, and so it was really a lot of fun to be able to do that. That's probably one of my favorite mediums, is to do painted tile and form-fitted ceramic tile. And then we did we had the Golden Gate Bridge on the left side and the Bay Bridge on the other side, and so sort of to show that we're trying to bridge the 2 communities, so it almost becomes like one, and they kind of merge together. And so you have iconic images from the San Francisco side and iconic images from the East Bay side. And then you have like the BART train coming it looks like it's almost coming over the Bay Bridge. You have and then on the left side, we have a lowrider car coming across the Golden Gate Bridge. And I think what's really cool about those 2 elements is that they have mirror for glass. In other words, the car is all mirror, and so you can actually position yourself to look like you're in the car yourself, driving the car. So it's sort of interactive too. So that's kind of neat. And also with the BART train too, you can see yourself reflected in the BART train too. So you become like a rider in the BART train. So it's kind of fun that way.
The mirroring effect is fun, and it's almost like you're participating in the mosaic, which I thought was a unique aspect of it. How do you decide when you're going to do a mosaic versus a painting? for a mural?
Well, most of the time it's our, the community that we're working with. They make the decision. We don't really make that decision ourselves. It's probably costs about 3 more times than a painted mural. So that doesn't come that often, although this year I've done 3 mosaic murals this year. But it was their decision to have a mosaic mural, and they wanted it to include as many different kinds of textures and surfaces as we could possibly do.
But the way you did the tiles was different and more labor-intensive.
Yeah, it's very labor-intensive, yeah, and we had a very limited time. I had 8 artists, including myself, design and plan it and actually do the production. So it takes a real big team. People also, only about half of us had any kind of mosaic or painted tile experience, and we were training other artists to show them how the process works. So every project that we do, we try to train artists how the process works for these different kinds of projects and different communities that we work with. So we always have like a lot of artists who are trained and ready to direct these projects when we get them.
Are there any particular murals that's like close to your heart?
Anybody? Well, I guess. Well, besides the ones that I've already mentioned, I guess I have a polyfresco mural that I did that is very obscure, but I really like the medium. I don't market it at all, but it's the only polyfresco I know of in the city and I innovated this formula for. But it's on the side of the Leonard R. Flynn School on the Harrison Street side in the Mission, and it's a small mural, but it's right in front of where the children's bus stop is, where they get off for school every morning. So I wanted it to be something that was like a greeting to them, and that people, so I have this very, 11-foot high hand, an open hand. It's sort of like hello, and then in the center of it is a spiral that goes from like wings to hands, spiraling and showing care for each other, so that they can see that those hands are like, caring for each other, and that we care for the children.
That's beautiful. We're going to take a quick break and thank our underwriters and be back on her life as a muralist with Susan Cervantes.
Support for KXSF comes from Lady Falcon Coffee Club, an iconoclastic, only in San Francisco coffee roastery. Born and blended by the beach in the outer sunset and female-owned and operated, look for Lady Falcon Coffee Club beans at Byright, Williams-Sonoma, Gus's, Rainbow Grocery, Good Eggs, and other fine food vendors, or at their vintage mobile coffee truck about town. Learn more by visiting their website at ladyfalconcoffeeclub.com. Thanks for supporting San Francisco Community Radio.
It takes a village to keep independent radio alive and well in San Francisco. That's why KXSF 102.5 FM is looking for underwriters to support our station. If you are an individual who loves listening to local artists and bands, or you run a business that cares about cultural diversity in our city, your tax-deductible donation to San Francisco Community Radio is a great investment. To find out more about how to become an underwriter, go to www.kxsf.fm, click on Become an Underwriter, and help keep KXSF on the air through 2019.
This is KXSF 102.5 FM, streaming worldwide at www.kxsf.fm. And you're tuned in to Spark with Kelly Marlowe, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
Back to the discussion about life as a muralist with Susan Cervantes. So Susan, talking about training new muralists, doing the process each time, it sounds like you do bring new people up to speed to become future muralists. And is that through the Precita Eyes Mural Center that you created with your husband 40 years ago?
Yes, the Precita Eyes Muralist Association is a nonprofit community arts organization. We founded 44 years ago, and it's always been my policy to always be trained, because I was always trained. Everybody here starts out as a volunteer, and over time I trained all these people. Even the original group that started out, which I think of as our founders, is about 8 different artists. It was just a group of artists in the neighborhood that got together, and we started working together, and they wanted to continue to practice. So it was just always there for them to learn. And when, but I didn't have anything real formal in, people would have to, come and maybe they'd come at the beginning of a project or the middle of a project or the end of a project, and they would take them a couple of years to figure out how to put it all together. So I started to have workshops, which is called the Community Mural Arts Education Workshop, which artists can come, or teachers, anyone that's interested in the art form can come and learn how the collaborative process works. So it's a 2-hour workshop. People get all the basic tools, knowledge, and hands-on experience just in that 2 hours. And they can then take that to their community and direct their own project. So I do have a class for that, but that's but when we do a project, we have a lead artist, and we always try to have an assistant that's in training, or like we call professional training. But they would do that with a lead artist, someone that's already been trained and working with a specific community, and we put them together. And so they're training and learning how the process works from beginning to end by assisting a lead artist.
I understand that it is one of the only 3 community mural centers in the United States.
Yeah, there's pretty much that's it. There's the Chicago Public Art Group. There's the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program. There's Groundswell in New York, Spark in L.A., and then Precita Eyes. So it's like 5.
5.
5. It's grown from 3 to 5. So, but it's the Chicago and Spark and Precita Eyes are probably the oldest community mural art centers or resource centers for mural art. Philadelphia, who has a great, huge program, has done hundreds and hundreds of murals in the Philadelphia area, are probably 20, 25 years, and Groundswell, which works predominantly with youth in New York, are relatively young as well.
I think it's beautiful that anyone can come to the center and take mural art classes or training. And it sounds like there's no experience necessary. You can just walk in. You don't have to be a experienced artist.
Well, that's correct. I mean, and a lot of the communities that we work with, that's true. It's just that we go into a community. They want their community to be involved in designing and planning a mural. We do this in schools, community centers, homeless shelters, housing projects, hospitals, wherever the requests come. And most of these people have never had any drawing or painting experience, but they really want to be a part of a community activity. that involves everybody. I mean, we just recently did one at a senior center, the 30th Street Senior Center, which is one of the most beautiful cultural centers for seniors in the city, to do this big, huge mural. And, probably, it was designed, with the lead artist with about 30 active seniors, and, and some of them had never painted or drawn before. And some of them were excited. Some of them found that they have this inside of them when they started to help do the painting. And it's transformative. So this process transforms a lot of people. I mean, I didn't know that was going to be a part of it, but, you see it happen, and you see the transformation in a lot of the young people who get involved with our youth arts program, doing murals, and in so many, many ways. I mean, even people that just go by and see a mural are transformed sometimes just by viewing it. But, so we have people who have never painted and drawn, but by the time they get done, they feel that they can actually paint and draw, and are encouraged to do more on their own. Yeah.
And it's both the community and the art process that makes it so transformative for them, because there's so many people there who are supporting you to make sure you succeed.
Well, it has to, I mean, we're responsible for guiding people through the whole process and to make sure that it's a successful project for everyone. That's really important. It's very rewarding. People are really grateful for it, and for having that experience, and especially the children and youth who never thought of themselves as being art. They never have the opportunity to or access to art, so it transforms them, and they decide to go to art school. And they never would have even thought of it before.
So one could get inspiration through Precita Eyes just by taking a mural tour.
A mural tour, yes. We've been doing tours since 1980, when there was just a handful of murals in the Mission. Now we have our second location on 24th Street, which is the heart of the Mission District. And but this is where we used to bring people to see some of the murals in the early days. Now you can see more than 100 within a 6-block radius, and there's probably over 650 murals in the Mission District alone.
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it started with because when I started the organization, no one even knew what a mural was, and maybe you could only see about 5 murals in the district at that time.
Are there any future ambitions that you would still like to fulfill?
Well, I think, I've always dreamed of having a much larger institution, more space, more of a people's community art institute or something like that. But we just need more space to make that happen. We need more studios so we can practice all the different medias that you can use in monumental art. So that's one idea. Would like to do more painted tile murals. I really like doing that because it preserves painting in a way that a more direct applied paint mural does not necessarily.
But you paint on the tiles, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we glaze the tiles. Yeah, we paint on the tiles and have them fired. Yeah.
Because you also use tiles that are already painted, if I remember.
Yes,
correctly.
well, yeah, we use glazed tile for our mosaics.
Okay.
But painted tile is something that we create ourselves. Where we create all the shapes in clay to fit the form that we're going to paint or put into the mosaic, and then we glaze it, using it just like paint, just like you're painting this figure, and then it's fired, and it's so it looks more like painting.
So do you do that at the studio too? Because I only remember seeing the painting and the already cut mosaic. Do you do the painting of the tiles and the firing there as well?
Well, we have done some. Well, when we did the Bernal Heights Library mural is all painted tile, and it's also, we have a bronze relief on it as well. And it was the first time that those two mediums had come together, bronze and painted tile. But we did all the painted tile in our studio here on 24th Street. It was quite a production. But very successful. Yeah, we did some of that for the Chase Center. We did some of that for the mural, Mosaic mural and painted tile mural in the 24th Street Mini Park, which is also amazing. We did some painted tile at the Chinatown YMCA, the new one on Sacramento Street in Chinatown, in their new swimming pool that they have in there. There's a big mosaic mural in there, and painted tile mural at the YMCA in Chinatown. So we've done some of that. We would love to do more of that, but
it's about space.
Yeah, we just need more space. I mean, in fact, when we did the Chase Center, we had to rent a special space to do that large of a production. We had to we rented a secret studio because we couldn't let anybody know what we were doing. But the space that we got which was a miracle here in the Mission, it was just big enough to do all the mosaic and to do the painted tile.
What is the legacy that you would like to leave behind?
Well, I think I think everybody has the artist within them. I think that if you have a dream of doing anything creatively, to pursue it and find places where you would be given opportunity and encouragement to do so, and just don't give up on anything, and just follow your dream and your heart. That's a lot of it right there.
Well, that's beautiful, and you have helped to make that happen through Presida Ice and through all the mosaics and murals that you have completed, because I've seen quite a few young artists working on them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And being inspired by them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for joining me on Spark today.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.